It's great to be in Manchester. It's the first time I've read in Manchester, and a really good welcome here. Lovely to read with Nick and Sammy and multi-instrumentalists and fabulous jewellery wearers over there. So thank you, everyone. It's been great so far. I'm going to begin with the woman who married the Berlin Wall. Is that one okay? Yes. Just checking. We'll get the right page. Right. This is actually based on a true story. I saw a film by Lars Laumann and documenting this particular woman, so I couldn't not write in response. The woman who married the Berlin Wall fell in love at the age of 7, thrilling to this Berliner's slim sensuality, his horizontal lines, his sense of division. Found the Great Wall of China far too stout. She used the words he or my husband. Made models of her lover. Took him on sleigh rides so he could enjoy her native northern Sweden. She papered her rooms from bulging scrapbooks. On her 6th visit, they wed, a small ceremony. She scratched her desire deep into his core, knowing he couldn't leave until he was demolished, chunk by chunk. She felt she owned him outright. I have some sympathy for a woman who could love a wall. I have practiced kissing tables, licking car seats, have pressed myself against an aeroplane's wing. This is the title poem of my second or third collection, yeah, I was attacked when I was 18, and that stays with me, and it often pops up in my poems. So this sort of poem, I suppose, is dealing with that, but also trying to move on. It's called The Way the Crocodile Taught Me. I swooned at the large god of him, sighing. A tooth for every day of my life. He performed his run along the bank, as males do. I brought my boat closer. He took to following at a distance. I wasn't taken in, knew his 4-chambered heart, pumped love out and in and out. Knew his tongue had few good uses, knew all about his grin. Yet whoever said he was cold-blooded has never truly known this beast. He brought out the prehistoric in me. I dived. We swam belly to belly to where the Niles meet. Tussled as we thrashed among the weeds. After, I lay the length of him, a limestone lilo, studs patterning my skin. He smiled at me, often, taught me all he knew. Years later, when a man tried to drag me under, I practiced the force my lover had held back, levered my small jaws open to their furthest extent, splashed them down on the human's arm. My attacker still carries the mark of my smile. This poem's written for a friend who has a fear of birds, and that's ornithophobia. I had to look it up, so I'm just saying in case anyone was thinking, what does that mean? Maybe owls, for John Searles. The birds in the silver birches listened as we shone our light over rock, jutting through the moss and grass of the path. The night silenced us. We became aware of the still sky and the stars we were ignorant of. The need for concentration was there, for the cliff fell away to our left. At the bend in the path, the birds took their chance, screeched and flapped at us, as if we were intruders, as if we had no right to the dark. You grasped my arm, my hair, as you forced my arm over your shoulder and cowered an awkward half-kneel, the torch beam making an involuntary cross against the woods. I've never known a man make me hug him. For an instant, I considered if this was all a pretense, your ornithophobia, that the birds must have been pleased at their work, for you opened your mouth and screamed, almost an enjoyment in the pitch of it. And again, that release. I used my in-control voice, steady and stern, which also came of its own volition. I heard my words, considered them and our many selves. Considered again the shelter you took, and how the stars didn't recognise us either. And the nights went on, knowingly. Under my command, we walked back, faster than we'd come, and you let my arm go, stood apart, and I thought, later, maybe owls, with their whiteness, their bright, bloom faces, and how quickly the quiet folded the sounds away, blending them into the dark, the night mending itself, the sounds carried by the river and away down the valley. I'm going to read this poem for Tanya. I've known from a very young age that I never wanted children, and that's been a really good decision for me. This poem is called What I Will Tell My Daughter. I will tell my daughter that I'm sorry I didn't have time for her. No time to allow her to grow inside, and no time to push her out. I will tell my daughter I'm sorry I never wanted her or her brother, although I'll admit I was curious as to their personalities, their looks, but not curious enough. I will tell her I'm sorry I told the man who would have been her father that I didn't want her, that she was better off born to someone else, that I'm sorry I wasn't prepared to have her occupy my body, that I liked the life I had. I will tell her I didn't want to share my life with her or share the man who would have been her father, that I'm sorry in public but not in private. I will tell her I didn't have the money to give her all the things I didn't have, but that's not the real reason. I will tell my daughter that I'm sorry she wasn't wanted or needed or loved, and she will look into my eyes and tell me she's long since stopped listening. This poem came about, I'm a big fan of Billy Collins. I know some people think he's just too jokey, but I like him. Well, I like his work, I don't know. But when I first saw the title of the first book I saw of his in the UK, which was Taking Off Emily Dickinson's Clothes, I thought, I'm not quite sure about that. So I wrote a poem called Taking Off Billy Collins's Clothes. I sent it to him by his agent. I've heard nothing. Here we go. Taking Off Billy Collins's Clothes. It will be morning. I will ask him to place his second cup of espresso back in its saucer, as quietly as I know he can, and rise with a typewriter. I will lead him to another window, where it will be snowing. This and and the horses distract him, while I ease off his jacket, pull his lemon cashmere sweater over his head. He will scarcely notice while he listens for the sound snow makes, slipping away to a reverie of landscapes he's yet to visit. As I unbutton his jeans, his coffee breath blurs the glass momentarily. I cannot tell you everything, but he kicks away the crumpled denim, as if shrugging off something half remembered. And I feel that he's stopping himself from murmuring something wry, sensing I may prefer silence. Okay, I'm going to read a poem in English and then read the last 6 lines of it in Kenuic, which is Cornish. I live in Penzance, so that's why I'm not up in Manchester all the time. There's a few things you might need to know. There's going to be a series of names, and they're 4 ancient Cornish kings. And the mention of a chough, which is a bit like a large blackbird with a red beak and red legs. That's Cornwall's national bird. I think the rest of it's probably self-explanatory. I hope so. So, a poem in which she wears her favourite wedding dress, which is a marriage of sea and birds. Saints are all about her. Herring and mackerel flit from the frothing nets of underskirts. As it drips, the dress has many moods, more than velvet, more than silk. It is a ruffled dress, a dress in which to swim, a dress in which others pray. It is a dress of some import, a dress which wheels through her arms, covers and uncovers her head. As the tidal collars retreat, choughs fix their nests in her windy hair, their bright legs and beaks ornament. This is a dress for accordions and fiddles. This is a dress for a storm, a dress of gold and white, and blue and red and black. In this dress, she senses she is half Christian, believes in the old names, those she loved, those she lost, Aleph, Caddock, Dungarth, Salomon. With the itch against her skin, she lets the fabric fall, becomes mythology, landscape. So here's the Kenuic. In Bogsmar, hia onglu hanta Christonis, o Chrissy in Henwyth Coth, and Ray Keris, and Ray Kellis, Aleph, Caddock, Dungarth, Salomon. Han Debron Erbyn hi crochan, hia as the Gwetha and Gwias, o Togs, Habos, Henwethel, Tirwan. Don't let anyone tell you Cornish is a dead language. I'll read in the Kelp Forest, and then another newish poem. Yeah, this was written. I'm one of those mad people that go swimming every day, year round. And at certain times of year, the kelp, there's a lot of kelp where I swim off of Penzance. You have to sort of really do have to swim through it, and you have to get your head around that. So, in the kelp forest, the first time she finds herself among brown strands between fear and wonder, floating in this other world of upside down, a place a person could wed herself to. So much dank silence, beyond her breath, the gentle murmur of limbs in suspension, their arc and splay. There's no peace like this in the dry country. She's like a body in a jar at the lab, but keeps her Dutch colours, sliding her mind through slender lengths of weed, fabric-like, plastic-like, part translucent, part shine, like nothing else but kelp. Her restless hair goes on its own pulsing journey. She forgets for blissed moments. She can't breathe here. This isn't air. Waves nudge overhead. It's like any place, almost visited. Say a city, say Seville. And she talks half seriously, half what if, of how she might live here. The kelp wafts in welcome, displays its tentacles as she refuses neoprene, longs for kelp's beckon and touch, longs to pass as a local, a strange fish for sure, but one who could belong. I'm going to read a new poem, which is in the current issue of Poetry Wales. I hope this isn't triggering for anybody. In memory of Sarah Everard. After a shaky week, I shiver back in. News of another woman. I swim mechanically, shoving the sea away. Memories surface of my own attack 36 years ago. He still swims alongside. Clambers on my legs, my head, my back. With each stroke, I strike the water, thankful for my strength that night. I've learned to swim in rough seas. And I'm going to do something jollier. This is a commission poem. I was asked to write a poem in response to the idea of boasting about the achievements of your life, and that's a really weird thing, I think, to be asked to do. I think it was a sort of women's collective who commissioned me to write it, I think with the idea that women on the whole were not terribly good at boasting about what we've achieved. So when I had this commission, I was thinking, shit, what am I going to write about? It sort of took me a while to get started. And then once I did get started, I loved it. So, there's a mention of Sharon Olds here, who's a hero of mine, famous American poet. I think everything else is, fine. Boasting sonnet. I'm not one to brag, but Sharon Olds wrote me a poem. Me, from a council estate. I've done handstands on a skateboard downhill, yet failed both maths and English A-level. I'm still in love with the man I met at 18. I don't believe in marriage, but I once won an award for headbanging and chaired human rights talks at the UN. Expelled from school, I'm now a PhD. I don't wear makeup. This is the real me. Unless I'm doing panto in Cornish. I'm a qualified mountain leader. Wish you could see my scything and Lindy Hop. I'd say much more, but sonnets make you stop.